old Muppet, old white Muppet guys example of what they would be like if they were doing yoga. That's basically been my yoga for today. It was just me complaining like an old curmudgeon-y old man. Poor Jane's like, well, I mean, it doesn't bother me too much. How is everybody? How is the wonderful world of interwebs? I am hiding in the basement because we've got, despite the Toronto lockdown, we've got Baz's school friend Bago Chips and also Tech Bandits member Bago Chips. Hello, Elsa. Hello, Brick Tech. Yeah, early today. No kidding, huh? Dave's the dude. Good morning, David. Starlink comes today. Dave's the dude. You can't be too looking forward to it though, Dave, because if you find yourself like waiting at the mailbox for things, it always ends up getting delayed. So just pretend you don't care. That's the best thing to do. Is like, no, I don't know. Whenever they show up, you know what I mean. I always find that whenever I'm like counting down and checking the tracking and all that kind of stuff, that's when it ends up being delayed. So don't, I'm saying just don't, do yourself that favor. I'm good, Petter. How are you? Ivan, how are you? William, Martin, Jim the Evo. Good man. Second dose hasn't been as bad as the first. Yeah, you were saying that you got some symptoms from the not symptoms, but you got some side effects from that first jab, right? Right, James? Yeah, James on his second jab of which one? Which one are you doing, James? FedEx usually doesn't come till the end of day anyways here. There you go. There you go. The word, you're a ringer for Heinz Wolf with that hair. My word, you're very good. Hello, Mary Lou. Hello, Selma. Eric. Bass, not Baz. Bass, not Baz. It's funny, Candy Medusa was asking me about the spelling of Baz. I was saying, like, shouldn't it be spelled with a Z? And I was like, well, it is spelled with a Z. And then she was asking about where I got Sebastian as a name. So basically, Sebastian, we didn't want it shorted to Seabass, like shortened down to Seabass or Seb or any of those kind of horrible, usual short forms of Sebastian. So we went with Baz. I don't know why, because I think probably because I really wanted I talked about Basil. I really wanted our son to be called Basil, but Jane was having none of that. And if we had a girl, we were going to call her Audrey, but we call her Odd. Or Audie is basically what we would. That was the plan for that. So Jane was convinced, or I had Jane convinced that we were having a girl because deep in my secret heart, I wanted a boy but I felt guilty about that because, it's such a guy thing. Like, I want a man. I want another boy to take over the family traditions, so I felt kind of guilty about that. And I thought, Jane so wanted a girl. I really wanted a girl as well because of that. But then when we had the boy, I was like, yep, that's what I saw. So, and he's just fabulous. And suddenly Jane goes like, oh my God, you know what? Boys are the best. So yeah, it worked out really well. Anyways, but I named him after my teddy bear. So I had a teddy bear called Sebastian that I used to bring with me to school. Now that sounds fine until I tell you that it was high school. And I carried this thing as an affectation because I was a pretentious little thing. And I had been watching and reading Evelyn Waugh's Brideshead Revisited, and I was so taken with this Sebastian Flight character who was just this disaster, but he was a fabulous disaster. And then of course he deteriorates into horrible, basically, closeted homosexuality that was unacceptable at the time, and alcoholism and everything. So basically, I've named my son as Candy Medusa pointed out after an alcoholic. Homosexual, who was basically destroyed by society's lack of understanding of both of those things, basically. So I mean, poor kid. Maybe better to go with Baz. And the short story for Baz is basically that he was named after my teddy bear. That's just, we sort of leave it at that there. So one day he'll perhaps read Evelyn Waugh and discover the truth. But I just thought that was kind of fun. All right, Jim Evo, nice. I got my first on Monday. So Jim, did Jim do Pfizer as well? Is that right? Are there different side effects for the different vaccines? That would be my next question. Felt like I was hit by a car the first time. This time, just a small golf cart hit me. Well, that's good, and it was Pfizer. So the news here ain't good. In fact, the news here is terrible. We're about to go back into full lockdown because our numbers are going up. Our ICUs are filling up. We have more COVID patients now than we did during the original. I think if I've got this right, maybe don't quote me. Look it up. But from what I gathered from the news this morning, it was we have more COVID patients now than we did at the beginning of the pandemic, which is very, very worrying. And they're all the variant as well. We've had 2 cases at Baz's school, so we started keeping him home. They were talking about having them back on Tuesday, and I was like, "No, that's right. Baz is staying with me. We're gonna homeschool for the next little while." So, and then his friend, we talked to his friend's parents. Fantastic entomologist and an arachnologist, if that makes sense, is an arachnologist. So she is basically a specialist in black widow spiders. It's just like so cool. And he's an entomologist. He basically, his specialty is basically, the audio, the audio skills of insects. Basically, I mean, there's much better terms for both of these things. I'm destroying whatever amazing degrees and stuff that they have, PhDs they have in these things. But basically, in my mind, there's like brilliant spider scientist, brilliant entomologist, and I just freaking love their family, and I feel very sort of lucky that our friends, that we're such sort of good friends with the parents of our son's best friend. It's wonderful. Yeah, and Bag of Chips is freaking great. He's just a great kid. Anyways, spiders are cool. Yeah, I don't kill spiders anymore. So I was laughing the other day because there was a big bug that we found. I didn't know what it was. That's what reminds me. I was going to look that up. We found a big bug in the bathroom, where Baz did. So we took that, put that outside, and then we found a spider. So I went to try to save the spider, and I took off a couple of his legs by accident. So I was sort of like, what does one do in this situation? I'm afraid I rapidly killed him, because I felt like there's nothing worse than walking around with 6 of your 8 legs. There's no way you were going to make it. So no. So Ricky, normally I don't kill spiders. The whole point is I was trying to save him. I was trying to save this spider, and I put the glass over him, and I guess he ran at the same time that the glass went down, and it got a couple of his legs, and I felt like crap. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the same guy who before I met Midian and Andrew, before I met those two, I would have killed a spider without thinking about it. I was like, they're in my domain, they die. Same thing for all of the big creepy crawlers that we have. We have a lot of these sort of like those horrible sort of centipedes that run around up here. Or are they millipedes? No, they would be centipedes, because they're yes, I went through this with Candy Medusa as well. Like they are centipedes here. These big, horrible, oh God, they're just horrendous looking things. But I do now try to save them as well. So, God, am I gonna get to the point where I'm walking around trying not to step on ants? I have become everything I used to laugh at. I guess that's probably a good thing. It's good to change, I suppose. Anyways, so now I try to save spiders. In fact, spiders, there's a few of them down here now, and I've purposely, when I vacuum now, I vacuum around their little webs, so they still have their fly zone. The fly zone. All right, what is Bass on about? What do we got here? Bass, lots of text here. I'm trying to watch 2 streams at the same time. The Dutch Parliament is more or less in the process of sending the Prime Minister home for lying about stuff after the elections here. Yikes. I don't kill spiders as well. There are allies in the war against insects. It's true. Save the insects. Game says, yes, they should grow them back. What? They don't grow them back. They don't. Do they seriously? They don't, do they? No. Seriously? Yeah, me too, Elsa. Spiders terrify me. Absolutely terrify me. But here's the thing. Look at them under a microscope. I'll get some video for you of the black widow spiders, because they are the most extraordinarily beautiful looking things, and really and can do some serious damage to you, obviously, as well. But there's something about them that, and I think there was a beauty and a I don't know, there was a beauty and a sort of a charm to them when we brought them into. And now I say it, I think how freaking nuts it was. We decided to bring, I think it was like 6 black widow spiders in little plastic containers into the school, into the local junior school, whatever it is. And to show our tech bandits, we were set up at lunch doing my tech bandit stuff. And so I talked to Andrew, and Andrew had said that he was using this laser vibrometer to basically to listen to insects and spiders and stuff. And so the idea basically is that this laser is fired at whatever it is you want to listen to. It doesn't do any damage to it, and that sound that is then reflected back at this device, and it can figure out differences in the I guess the wavelength of the, I don't know, it's the wavelength of the light or the movement of the laser. I'm not sure exactly how it works. Doppler effect, basically, and it can convert that into sound. So you can fire a laser at a web and hear the web move. You can fire a laser at the web with the spider, and you can hear the spider moving its mandibles on the. It's extraordinary. I mean, it sounds like someone is like basically shaking basically shaking a tin full of rocks. But so we put it through this big speaker system, and we set up, because there was no room for us in the. I don't know if there's still. I mean, I haven't been back at the school for years, but not for years, but for literally a year now. And we were set up in the hallway because it was the only place there was space. But of course, it's lunch, so there's kids coming and going and running and back and forward, and janitors, and it was chaos. But it was the kind of chaos I like, so we sort of enjoyed it. So we set up in the corner of the hallway, and teachers would come by and go like, look, my students are saying that there's black widows in the school. And I was telling them that is not the case, that they're fine. And I was like, no, there's black widows in the school. They're right there. And she's like, well, shouldn't they have covers on them? I was like, no, they don't have covers on them because otherwise we can't fire the lasers at them. You can't fire a laser through the plastic top. And they're like, yeah, but what if they get out? I was like, well, they're not really going to get out. They don't, it's not like they, again, I'm not the spider expert. My friend Andrew, who's the entomologist, knows all about these things as well. Even though his study is spiders, even though his study is insects, he is married to the expert in black widow spiders. That's why we had them. So the teachers were freaking out. We put a piece of tape so no one could go beyond a certain point. We didn't want anyone sticking their hands in and stuff. But it was amazing. Like the discussions that came out of the kids because of this was extraordinary. Everything from kids telling us about how spiders work, and getting schooled on some of this stuff. Talking about the poisons, talking about the toxins or whatever it is, talking about just how the spiders work, and then we fed them with some crickets so we could see what was happening there, and just there was you really start to respect these crazy, beautiful creatures. I mean, like the reality is, like if I was God, I'm not saying I'm not, but if I was God and I was tasked with designing a deadly spider, the black widow is like the go-to, like it's exactly what you'd think you would want to do. It's like this gunmetal black, slightly shiny, gorgeous texture with a gash of red on it. I mean, it's just, they are extraordinary looking beasts. So anyway, so the kids getting all excited about the spiders, and then there were other discussions which never even occurred to me, where a kid came in and said, like, I think it is illegal for you to have black widow spiders in the school. And I said, wow. That's a good point. What if we're breaking the law? We should find out. So we Googled, and we talked to a couple of people, and it turns out that no, it's not illegal to have spiders in the school because they're not going to infest the school. If I brought mice into the school, that would be illegal. That would be illegal. So we had a whole discussion about this. This kid was worried about the legalities of this stuff, which I thought was, again, this is what I love about working with the tech bandits, is that the tech bandits always come up with these things that they go down tracks. They're not always the right track, admittedly. A lot of it's gaming. But, they go down these wonderful different sort of paths to learning stuff. Or not even learning stuff. I don't think learning stuff is even the important thing. I think they go down these paths and they find things that they're excited about, and that's what I get excited about, basically. And plus, I get to learn. I didn't know any of this stuff. I'm setting up laser vibrometers and carton things of black widows around. I mean, God, it's just so amazing. I mean, like, I'm like kind of jealous of Bag of Chips. Like, I feel like his house would be so cool. It's just got to be full of all sorts of spiders and creepy crawlies and stuff. Anyways, red ants are bad. Ooh, yeah, not a big fan of red ants. It's true. Hello, Lindsay. Old Get What Games. Brown reclusive bites can blister as well. Incredibly painful. Yeah, I've heard about that too. I don't know if do we get brown recluse here? Luckily, there's the recluse part of their name. Like, they don't really like to be, you got to do that by accident. Same thing with black widows. It's not like black widows leap out of the box and try to bite your face. They're more likely to roll up in a ball and hide than anything else here. We had black widows all over LA. When we lived in Santa Monica, used to go out, and sort of knock off the pool chairs and stuff, because they were always nested just below your seat there. So yeah, we were constantly doing that. And then when we moved, I remember we did it when we were moving. Oh, I missed that place. That was a lovely place in Santa Monica. Just loved it. It was on a corner. It was on a weird corner though, because there was a church on the corner, like this wonderful sort of lively Filipino church. But they installed a giant LED screen that would sort of blast messages of hope and stuff. But of course, it blasted messages of hope into our front window. So it was sort of like, oh, for God's sake, like, I'm like living in Blade Runner. So I thought it was cool at first, but then after a while, it got a bit much. And they also would do this terrible, every like Wednesday afternoon, they would do this terrible Christian country music. Like it was like literally like Filipino country Christian music, and they would rehearse, and it was just, oh my God, it was awful. And then and the other thing that we thought was funny when it used to happen, and again, we used to laugh about it, but the thing that drove me the most crazy about it was we were very close to Santa Monica College, and so the kids would cross the road and smoke. So they'd smoke on our corner, and of course I was like the old man I'd literally like turn on the sprinklers and stuff just to get rid of them. I was like, get off my lawn, stop smoking, it's bad for your health. So so there was, now I say it, there were a lot of problems with that place, but we loved it. It had this little pool and this oh my God, this ancient old pool that with the heater never worked, and we were constantly getting it fixed. But man, we loved. One day we for some reason its thermostat went wrong, and it suddenly whoop, I'm knocking things over. The thermostat went wrong, and it basically boiled the water in the pool. So the pool was like, it was too hot to get into. Cost us a freaking fortune too. In fact, I think the electrical company gave us a break because we said like it was a mistake, because it was just insane. All right, we have questions in here. Questions in here. The non-believer was chased off by the church shenanigans. Exactly, Christopher. Get off my grass. Randy the Magic Man. It's going okay. I mean, as I say, Baz has bag of chips here as well, so I think that's making a difference. We're in lockdown, but the reality is the kids have been in class together, and they're masked here, and we're masked at the house as well. I feel like, honestly, at this point, I would prefer this than him going back to school. They're talking about doing a full lockdown of Toronto, but the kids still go back to school, which doesn't make any sense to me, because one of the things that's been sort of like proven, I believe, Jim the Evo can prove me wrong if need be, but what I've heard is that this new variant is incredibly infectious, and the kids bring it home, and then the entire family gets it. That it's very definitely being transmitted by the kids. So I don't understand why they're going back to school. But anyways, yes, I mean it's funny, dramatic impulse, because I feel like it's been lonely. It works for some kids and not for others. Baz has loved it. He loves his online interactions. He had a whole great chat yesterday. So we've got a new tech bandit joining us, Kat. Kat's going to be joining us from the UK, and Baz was just on there, just texting back and forth with her on Discord. I mean, I'm really sort of I'm impressed with the fact that their social life, I think even their social life in the real world, a lot of it is online. I mean, I see a lot of the times I see them going hang out together, and they're all on their phones texting themselves and other people as well. So I feel like there is an understanding and a sort of an acceptance of online communication that just doesn't exist for us. Like, the other thing that was funny the other day was talking to Cal, because Cal had introduced me or recruited Kat for the Tech Bandits cause, and she was saying that they don't use email, right? So kids don't generally, not only they don't use email, they don't check email. So there's a whole generation growing up that I think will be only contacted in these kind of text or Discord like ways. So I'm actually thinking about moving all of my Tech Bandits announcements and stuff to Discord, because I think that's where most of the kids will get their stuff. Of course, it's not everyone. There's always a couple of kids who are email as well. So Elsa uses Snapshot. Oh, really? Snapshot or Snapchat? Snapchat, right? Does everyone else's kid text each other even when they're in the same room, or is it just mine? No, no, Ricky, that's the way it's done. You know what I mean? Do I like Harry Potter movies? I prefer Harry Potter books. I love the books. The movies are okay. I mean, I enjoyed the movies, of course, but I don't know. It's so funny because I'm in the industry, but I feel like we just ruin. There's something wonderful about reading a book and coming up with your own image of these things. And it's never, ever, movies are never going to live up to those images. My concern now is that there is this, and Bradlett's exactly the same on this as well, where it's like, oh yeah, no, I read that. It's like, no, you didn't read it, you watched the movie. It's like, yeah, but I watched the movie, so I basically read the book. I'm like, no, you haven't. It's a whole different experience. So I don't know. Yeah, the movies cut out the nuance and the ambiguity. There's stuff you just can't do on film. You can't get in people's heads the way you can in books. It just becomes it's like taking an onion and then just presenting the outside, the outside part. You don't get any of the layers of it, or many of the layers of it. It's done very well in some cases. I mean, weirdly, I started reading Game of Thrones and preferred the book. I preferred the series to the books, which is weird. I know it's probably sacrilege to say, but and maybe I just wasn't in the mood. But I mean, I thought like, great, you know what? I love this. I'm going to go and I'm going to read the books and get the real sense of it. But I think that I was so used to the television show that I just couldn't. The book was so extraordinarily different for me. I had the same thing with Blade Runner as well. I remember reading Android's Dream of Electric Sheep, the Philip K. Dick book, and was like, what the hell? How did they get Blade Runner out of this? Anyways, can you tell me to go study? Go study. What are you studying? Let me tell you. Let's see what you're studying first, then I'll tell you whether you should go studying or not. I'm afraid I can't read your name because it's in Cyrillic. Is that right? But Blade Runner, I think, was way better as a noir film. I love Blade Runner. I just absolutely love Blade Runner. Just realized I left school 50 years ago. Oh my God, Eric. I mean, it's getting close to that for me. Books of Game of Thrones are better if you speed read over the food descriptions. Oh, they're huge food. Really? That's interesting. All right. So go study. Depending on what you're doing, go study. Don't forget to watch Prison Break. Why do you like Prison Break so much, Elsa? And why will I like it? That's the question for you. I'd be curious to know. Stargate Continuum was incredible. Which was Stargate Continuum? Stargate Continuum? Which was that one? Math mostly. Oh, math. Go do math. Come on, go study your math. Math isn't studying though, really, isn't it? Math is a participation sport. You sort of have to sit down and actually do math, don't you? What kind of math? What are you doing in math right now? What is the math? The movie, the SG-1 movie. Sorry, yeah, I get the. I'm thinking Stargate Continuum. Is there a new one or something that I don't know about? I'm researching Outer Limits. That's good. Math is working problems. Absolutely, absolutely. I prefer to watch. Oh, Eureka! Eureka was fun, wasn't it? I love that guy. Prison Break equals Stargate Atlantis without McKay. Well, then how good? It can't be that good then, can it, Randy the Magic Man? There is so good actors. Yes, there are some great actors. You know, it's funny, Elsa. I remember meeting a couple of those guys in an audition in L.A. I went in and there were all these guys from Prison Break. It may have even been an audition. It's possible it was an audition for Prison Break. I don't remember now. God, it was so long ago. But I remember meeting a couple of them in there. And they seemed really, really nice kids. Freaking kids. I need to study now, but it's live. Selma Lindgren has to go and study. Well, go study then. Don't let me stop you from studying. Look, here's the deal. I just happened to be early today because I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about the 5 a.m. Club, which is this it's like this productivity thing where you get up at, I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything about the club. I just heard about it literally. And the idea is you get up at 5 a.m. and you get these 3 hours of uninterrupted you time when you do all the things that you put off until the end of the day and then you don't do. And I love the idea of it, except Jane said, if I hear that freaking alarm at 5 a.m., she's going to murder me. So, but that said, I leapt out of bed when the alarm went off today and went and made some bread and got tea and toast and stuff for everybody. So they were up and ready, but it is nice to be up a little early and just not have, it's nice to be up before 9 o'clock. I'm not a morning person in any way, shape, or form. I would much rather sleep all day. And if I could, I would, but I can't. So I want to be more morning because I feel like there's this little chunk of time before 9 a.m. that there's no messages coming in. You don't go on social media. You just wake up and concentrate on just like jotting a few things down in the bullet journal or figuring out what your day is. Like today, I got a great day today. I got a freaking great day today. So today I'm talking to my friends at McCordick, and McCordick is this freaking fabulous school for kids with developmental and physical disabilities. I used to visit when I could. I just freaking love these ladies who run this place. And Kathy, Elizabeth, and Jane. Yes, they've got a Jane too, fabulous Jane. So I'm going to be talking to them today and catching up because I haven't done that for ages. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they do it. I mean, it is this amazing place that looks after these kids who just require basically like attention 100% of the time. I mean, these kids are just like there's just so much that has to be done, for them in many cases, or at least they have to be monitored all the time because there's just so many different things that these little guys are dealing with, little guys and gals are dealing with, I just love it. I love it. I mean, I go there and I mean, you'd think you would be. It's so funny. There's like sort of a kind of assumption in your head that you're going to have to like sort of like suck it up and it's going to be tough because these kids, and the reality is it's not. There's like so much like joy there. Like there's so much, and there's just this, and you know exactly where you stand with them. You know exactly, kids. It's like nope, don't want that, and you're like, okay, that's not working. What about you like the camera more than the robots? Great, go play with the camera. You know what I mean? Like, so it's just that kind of stuff, and I don't know why I get such a kick out of it, but I do. And also, there's obviously a lot of assistive tech stuff there that I feel like I wish I could help out with, and I'm hoping to. One of the reasons why Jonathan MLH fabulously donated an entire CNC machine for us was that once I get this thing set up, I want to start building little laptop stands for the kids to use the eye gaze technology. And then in talking with Gimpy God about gaming, we had a fabulous idea yesterday about. I think it was his idea actually. I think I talked about trying to do an esports team, and then why don't we do an esports Paralympics type thing? And then Gimpy God said, why don't we do face gaming? And I was like, face gaming? I was like, I'd forgotten. We talked about this idea that using the quad stick to control the computer. So it's basically, it's a joystick that's tuned specifically for people with generally severe disabilities who are using their mouth and their breath to control the computer. So you can use different like sips and puffs and half sips. And oh, wow, Wes FX, thank you very much. I'm an awesome role model and actor. Good morning. Oh, thank you very much, Wes X. And you are an awesome human being for throwing $5 towards our Tech Bandits adventures. Thank you. That's very kind of you. So the idea is that this little quad stick, as it's called, will allow people who can't move to use a computer. And there's software that can be built into programs and stuff to help them play games and use computers and stuff. And so there's a certain amount of assistive stuff built into the software. Gimpy G seems to think, and from what I've played with, that some kind of an external, almost mechanical interface is a better way to go. So we're getting ourselves a couple of quad sticks. That is on my list of emails today. Actually, is to email Fred about that. But the idea was like, what if we do face gaming and we get a bunch of like able-bodied gamers to play a couple of games with these quad sticks, do a competition, raise some money for a good cause, and then at the end of the game, we can, you rinse them all out and everything, clean them all off, sterilize them, get them to sign them, and then we could donate their quad sticks to kids and adults and people who might actually use them. I just think it's a fantastic idea. Plus, we get an esports team, which I just think would be so cool. I've always wanted to. I love the idea of like being involved in an esports team of some sort because I think that's another. One of the things we brought up on Tech Bandits yesterday was the idea of these kids in Brazil growing up in the slums of Brazil, I can never get it right. The Flavicos, or I'm not. Anyways, it's basically every single action movie you see or Bond movie. That there's a chase scene in Brazil. They go through the slums and the tin huts and they destroy things, and that's where these kids are from. And so they're basically trying to play video games while bullets rain down on them from gang turf warfare or police raids, and they're using stolen internet from their neighbors. And I mean, like the idea that anyone is going to rise out of this $1.90 a day existence to become an esports gamer playing for $400,000 a year or whatever, like us as privileged folks have the ability to. The idea that anyone's going to get out of that mess is unlikely, but there are kids trying to do it, and grown-ups trying to do it. There's people trying to raise their family and be gamers and stuff. So there's this company called Zero Gravity, I believe, that is an esports. They have an esports team, but their prerequisites are you got to be from poverty or you've got to be from the slums, and that is how they put their teams together. And the idea is not even just to raise a couple of kids out into an esports team, because my first thought was like, well, big deal. So you get 6 kids. Like, what about the rest of them? But the thing is that because there is this incentive, there is an achievable goal for these kids. It raises awareness about what's going on. Companies can come in, maybe set up some better networks for them, maybe get some access to some computers and stuff. And they have an achievable goal. They potentially, at the end of the day, they could end up with a job on an esports team because of companies like this. And I think this is going to attract more people doing the same sort of thing. And I just love the idea of being able to do something similar like that with gamers, people with disabilities, basically. I'm seeing more and more of these gamers online, and it is extraordinary. And why is the assumption that everything that we do is designed for people who can move their fingers and their hands and all that kind of stuff. And not only that, the keyboards and mice and phones that we use create carpal tunnel syndrome. They cause all sorts of issues with arthritis and things. Eventually, we are all going to suffer from not being able to use the tools, the input devices for a lot of our necessary devices. So we've just randomly decided that a mouse and a computer keyboard is the way that we're going to interface with our computers. Admittedly, there's voice and other stuff's coming on. There's eye gaze technology and stuff. But the reality is, why not challenge that? Like, why don't I use a mouth controller for using my computer? I mean, it's just a different form of doing the same thing. And so I love the idea of sort of leveling the playing field by having these devices being used. And I just thought Gimpy God's idea of then being able to have gamers use it and then sign it and donate it. I just think it's just a fantastic idea. And then of course you'd be raising money with the whole thing anyways. And of course Gimpy God and I would get fabulously rich in the process as well. So it's really good. That's great. You know what I mean? Yeah, save the world. But Gimpy God and I do well as well. So that's the basic idea. I love how often you live stream. Oh, thanks, Alexa. Look, this is for me. I wish I could say it was for you, but the reality is this is a part of my exercise routine now, right? So oh wow, Johnny Winter, thank you very it's called the favelas. That's it, favelas. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for not only educating me but also throwing money at me. That's very much appreciated. So the favelas, that's the hey buddy. Is there a problem?
Glenn and I were lightsaber fighting. We hit the TV.
No. You really did? You seriously broke the TV? No. Oh my God! This is drama, folks. This is really.
I'm sorry.
Oh my God! I may have to go.
We were fighting with the lightsabers.
Yeah.
And I backed up with my lightsaber.
Yeah.
And I just shattered the TV.
No, shattered it?
Like not like all the glass came off, but there's a huge indent in the TV.
Oh my God! Is it April 1st? Oh, you weasel! Oh my God, you are the worst child I've ever had. You are dead to me, son. Dead to me.
Fine.
Call child services. Oh my God. Can I film this?
Yeah,
oh my God. Thank God you were here. You are such a little weasel. Oh my God. Oh, I don't have my mask on. Shoot. Oh my God. You were such a weasel. I can't believe. Oh man, it's too bad I didn't come up. So I don't have my mask on, so I have to go. I'm covering my mask because I'm not supposed to be here because the kids because I don't have my mask on. Oh my God, you little jerks. All right, well done. No, Elsa, it's not real. It would have been so much better if I'd gone up. You totally would have got me. Totally. Oh my God, it's so lucky I didn't totally freak out. I was amazed at how calm I was about it because I was like, well, I guess we're not watching King Kong versus Godzilla today then. Oh my God. Oh, what a weasel. He's not, oh my God, he's a good actor. We're so screwed. We're so screwed. He's either going to be some kind of evil politician or, Wes FX, thank you very much. Well, can you fix it or not, McKay? I can fix it. Yeah, I can put the kid up for adoption. That would solve that problem. Oh my God. Oh, no, he didn't, honestly. Yeah, it was fake, Selma. So that is an image that you can put on your screen that makes it look like you've broken the thing. But what's funny is they were playing, like this is well planned because they were playing with these beasts, basically these ones. Let me see if I'll show you. With this, right? They were playing with these. They have one of these, right? So, I totally buy it because they were playing with them upstairs. And I thought the other day I was like, maybe I should say something, But I was like, nah, they're smart. They're not gonna break anything. But oh my God, no, I fully admit I completely thought that they'd done that. That was my well, what am I gonna do? Face. Whoo! So glad that you could all witness that me being punked like that. They spent some time planning that. Yeah, that was good. Never underestimate the intelligence of children. Their brains move at the speed of light. Never underestimate the evil power of children. Oh my God, totally got me. A penguin is on your ceiling. Didn't you know? Okay, thank you, just in case. It's true. I ran out of space. To put things, and he was always in the way. This is a prop from Dog's Breakfast, by the way. He was always in the way. So I hot glued him to the ceiling. I hot glued him to the ceiling to get him out of the way. Anyways, oh my God, that was good. That was really, really good. Bravo, son. Well played, I say. Whew, that is, man. I hate April Fools. Like, it's got to be over by noon, right? Oh, speaking of which, I've got to go, because I've got to go talk. I got chats to do. I love talking to you, but I now I realize I probably should go and get ready for my meetings. I'm also doing, this is the other thing. So Clarice is dealing this show that I'm working on now, this Clarice show, which is back again today, I think. Is that on today? Is today Thursday? Yeah. So today, it's on today. So we'll watch Godzilla versus Kong, and then we'll watch Clarice. But so Clarice is dealing with a lot of like really some good stuff. I mean, they've taken what I would have, this is the beautiful thing about diversity when it comes to anything. But specifically when it comes to television, you got a room full of white guys writing about, cop shows, and you're going to get the same kind of cop shows. Oh my God, Lloyd, thank you very much. Pass this on to your son for a great joke. No way, Lloyd, no way, I'm not telling him. Forget it, it's going to Tech Bandits. Don't pay my son for jokes. All right, fine. I'll buy him a pack of Magic the Gathering cards or something. All right, but thank you very much. Though I really don't think you should be provoking him. Promoting him? Provoking him? Backing him up? I don't know what the word is. Need more coffee. I haven't even had coffee yet. I'm still on tea. So, So Clarice deals with... it's basically a cop show, right? It's like, she's an FBI agent and she's solving these horrible murders and stuff, and there's a little bit of conspiracy stuff in there, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But so on the surface, I would, as a usual sort of approach to TV stuff, you go like, oh yeah, so there you go. So it's like, so every week she's solving a different crime or something, and but because they've got this wonderful sort of diverse, creative group involved in this show, they've sort of like turned it inside out And sure, you have all the fun, usual thrills and spills and mysteries to solve and all that kind of stuff, grisly murders and things. But they're looking at the inner workings of the FBI and the police force and such during the 19 whatever it is 80s or something. That's because it's set at the same time as Silence of the Lambs. So it's dealing with all of these things that we're still struggling with, but we have a better perspective on, I think now. So it's dealing with a black agent in the FBI is not getting the promotions that the white guys are. A black female agent, even worse. Female agents, being hit on by agents, being sort of put down by this sort of male toxic masculinity stuff, and just this whole 80s crap. So it's really, really fun. Like, it's turned this show, I think, into something much more than it would have been had it just been a sort of standard procedural. And I sound like I'm not just saying this because I'm in it. I'm not in it an awful lot. I show up once in a while, so it's really not about that. I'm truly taken with the way that they've done this. And one of the added bonuses of this is they will give us there'll be like lectures and courses and stuff at lunch. So at lunch today, I'm not on set today, but I'm still invited because they're the best. They're doing a Zoom meeting about diversity, about sort of racism and stereotypes and bias and all this kind of stuff. So I get like a free course at lunch on this stuff, which I just think is fantastic. It makes it so much more than just another acting job. You know what I mean? I actually emailed them and said that to them. I was like, "Oh, thanks so much for making this like more than just another sort of acting gig." So I get to do that as well. So I'm going to go talk to McCordick. So first I'm going to talk. So boy, I got a social change warrior kind of a day today. I start with talking to the fabulous folks at McCordick about them dealing with pandemics and kids with developmental and physical disabilities, and although honestly, I just want to catch up with them and find out how they're doing. And then I'll go straight into this fantastic. It's like a 45-minute seminar and stuff. And I actually have some questions because I have. I don't know if I told you this or not, but I was given an audition by a big video game company here. Asked to do a voice audition, and the example character that they were using in their breakdown of this character was a Pacific. I mean, I can't be. I really I can't. I'll get in a lot of trouble if I give anything away. But basically, I should say like an obviously indigenous character. Yes, in a sci-fi kind of a way and all the rest of it. But it was very obviously sort of a Pacific Islander type of character, but with the sense of humor of Ryan Reynolds, and it seemed so tone deaf, and so I said no thanks. Look, I don't see me playing this role somehow. It's just a voiceover, but I'm sure I could do accents and and all the rest of it, but it just felt totally wrong. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, oh, God, I mean, should I do more than just not go in for it? So I sort of emailed my agent and said, look, this is why I've said no to this, just so you know. And then he was like, well, I don't know if they really are definitely casting a person of color. And then he got back to me like a day later and he said, like, I looked over the sides and stuff, and yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from there. That just seems really weird. So I thought, well, okay, so in this sort of spirit of trying to be active rather than not, because as a white guy, I have the privilege of not having to deal with racism, if that makes sense. Unless I choose to wade into it, I don't have to. Where there are people of color who do have to deal with this stuff, whether they want to or not. So I thought, okay, I'll dip my toe into this into the social warrior thing. I emailed the casting agent. I said, look, I feel like it was a mistake. I feel it is a mistake to cast a white voice actor in the role of in a role that is obviously a person of color. I just felt like in this day and age, it just shouldn't be. It just seems wrong to me. Even if we could fake the voice and stuff, it feels kind of deaf to what's happening in the world. And I'm probably not even supposed to say deaf, but anyway. So I emailed her and said that. Now, of course, there may be implications to that. Like, I'm not sure how many more auditions I'm going to get from her, but that said, I just thought it was important to say something, no matter how awkwardly it's said. And I was completely nice about it. Like, I wasn't saying like you're a terrible person. I was just saying like, look, I think it would be great if this company could just. Why doesn't this company just come out and commit to casting people of color in roles of color? That seems like a very easy thing to commit to and to stick to. Um, Person of color, role of color, why they should be playing the same. And I know we can get into a whole thing about like, okay, so, do you have to be gay to play a gay role? Do you have to be straight to play a straight role? There's so many issues here. I understand that it's not as simple as just a blanket statement like this, but I just feel in this situation, it's one thing that can happen that will give people, even though it doesn't matter what color your skin is to do this role specifically, unlike many other parts of this film industry where it is all about how you look. That's it for sure. There should be no. It is a very, very difficult casting is a very difficult process. I can understand because the industry is so focused on the way people look. But when it comes to voice acting, there's been a tradition. There's been a lot of people of color who are voice actors. I think part of that was because people don't see them, so they don't. There's no racial implications to it in the way that the film industry, the television industry work. So I think in a way they're probably more. For a long period of time, I think there were probably more people of color in voice roles than there were in other aspects of the industry. So obviously, we're trying to change that. We wanted the whole industry to become far more sort of diverse. Is a word that we shouldn't use anymore either. It just sounds too. It's very sort of generic and woke sounding. It's more about just like making sure that there are people who aren't being represented, who aren't getting a chance to get their foot in the door. Just getting them in there and allowing them to get involved in the industry in a way that other people have been able in the past. So anyways, so that was my little thing. I mean, I'm really torn on it because there's a part of me that goes like, it's none of my freaking business. Like, I'm some freaking old white guy who am I to be saying what a company should be doing with their casting? But I just felt like it was worth saying something. I was going to do it on Twitter, and then I realized like that's just not like then it is guns blazing kind of thing. I feel like that could be taken. I mean, I would rather them be allowed. I feel like my son worries about cancel culture basically, and it's obviously definitely something that I definitely struggle with myself. But I think I think people need to be able to change, right? People need to be able to make mistakes. And yes, absolutely be taken to task for them. But then I think they need to, they then should be able to be that change that they've learned, basically, right? So I think if there's a tendency now to just sort of shut things down and shut people down right away, and I guess maybe this is self-preservation as well, where I feel like I know I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm sure I will say the wrong thing. I just don't have my frame of reference is very much my own. Is very much my own color, my own background. I mean, I'm from a privileged background. My father worked very, very, very hard from very, very little to get us a life that I've been very sort of lucky to have and that has helped me in everything I've done. Absolutely. I mean, the reality is the luxury of deciding to become an actor, was for very few people back then, and it was a time that absolutely looking back, I feel that looking back, I realized just how much of that was my world, was my own little world, right? And I mean, not to say that there aren't struggles and there aren't difficulties for everyone, but I realize now that it's an industry that wanted white, blue-eyed, blonde-haired leading men, basically, and that was when that was my age, and that's what I was doing. So I hope that is changing now. I know that makes it difficult for different people and for different reasons and stuff. But anyways, I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting. So basically, it's a very long-winded way of saying. I want to ask today about that because I want to know what you're supposed to do in those situations. Like, what is the right response when you see something that you feel like when you question perhaps what is not being seen as an issue by these companies, and especially gaming companies, especially because they've got, man, gaming companies have just been horrible about this stuff, especially treatment of women in the game industries has been terrible, because there's a lot of white antisocial nerds, are starting these companies, and me being one of them. Like I don't know, not that I've started a game company, but I'm saying, like, I know this because I'm the same way. And I think there's a lot of those cultures that need to change. So I just felt that of all of the industries, this was the one to take a little bit of a stand. I mean, pathetic stand. I mean, not this is but just that where I basically my dipping my toe into this whole social justice thing. But I just felt that game companies were one that I want to see change because I don't care whether it's done because they truly believe it or because they just feel like they have to, as long as that change happens. I think, you know what I mean. I think you can do things for the wrong reason, but they can still do good. And I think you can do good things. I think you could do things you could do bad things for the right reasons, and they still do bad. They're still bad things, right? So, anyways, okay. Someone gets to know someone from a group they hate. There's less fear, less hate. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, there's a decision. Look, and I'm not even sure if it's like groups they hate. I think it's just part of the issue here is familiarity, as you say. I mean, if I'm very lucky because I live in Toronto. Toronto has got a really wonderful sort of mix of cultures and races and religions and beliefs and everything. So it's a nice sort of what is it, a cultural mosaic that we have here. That's not to say there isn't racism. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of issues here, especially with our indigenous population, and as I'm learning, the Asian community as well, because of this virus specifically. I think there's a lot of anti-China sentiment and stuff. So I think there's a lot of things a lot of hurdles we have to jump over here. But the advantage of living here is that I think you are. You're exposed to a lot of different sort of cultures and lifestyles and perspectives and stuff, which is great. But if you're not, like if you live in a little town outside of Toronto, perhaps that is very white, or very brown or very whatever. I mean, like the reality is, if you're living in a little contained bubble of your own, of your own beliefs and familiarity, then you're obviously not going to have as much of a perspective on the world as anyone else. So, this is something that needs to be addressed. And I thought the internet was the way that it was going to happen. I just thought that everyone was going to be familiar with everything because of the internet. But the reality is, it's weirdly split up into splinter nets, and we're all in our own little social scenes. So, so there you go. So, this reminds me, get in touch with Linus Sebastian of Linus Tech Tips. You are very local to each other, and he can probably help you out with tech stuff. Woohoo! Someone approved. I think he's in Vancouver, though, isn't he? Saskatoon freezing deaths. Oh, God. Do I want to know? I can't really click links on this, but I'm a wee bit late. What are we discussing? Megan Wolski. Sorry, not really discussing. As always, I'm just pontificating, but we're just talking about the fact that I've got this... I've got a seminar this afternoon from Clarice about stereotypes, bias, and racism in the film industry, and I'm just kind of excited about it because Clarice has put this together for us, and I feel very lucky that I have access to these things. Like, normally people have to pay to do this kind of stuff, and I'm getting it for free, even though I'm not on set that day. That's true. Computers. The role was first. Every computer program was a woman. Ada Lovelace, the programming language. Ada is named after her. Yeah, that is true. I mean, women in computers is an interesting thing because there were a lot of women pioneering this stuff originally, but still, they may have originally been pioneering it, but they're pioneering it within a world that was incredibly male dominated and sexist as well, right? So I think I think it's easy to find. Look, I think you can find examples that break the mold, but what you want to realize is that you have to think of them. They're not automatic. When you think of a computer nerd, you don't immediately think of. I mean, well, I don't. There you go. This is a perfect example. I don't immediately think of a of a woman like Ada. I will now more. I hope. So I think that the fact that we have to think about who those women would be is the difference, right? Wow, someone has just what is that? Um, Anariel Ray. It is amazing to see a childhood idol. Please recommend an interesting movie. Thank you very much, Anariel. Well, I'll tell you what we're watching today. We're watching Godzilla versus Kong because even though we're in Canada, I have an American, because I still have all our American accounts and stuff. I have an American account for HBO Max, so we will be watching Godzilla versus Kong today, and we are very much looking forward to it because one of our other favorite movies was Pacific Rim, because we just like watching giant things destroy smaller things. So, and then Baz is a little worried that Kong's going to win because he's like, wait a second, Godzilla could just put a hole straight through Kong. So that was a fun film. What's another one? If you want something a little creepier, I saw something that I really liked was, although my friends hated it, I got to say, all of my friends hated it. I loved it. It was called I Care Too Much. I Care Too Much, or I Care So Much. Really kind of creepy, dark comedy, some brilliant performances, some wonderful twists. I really enjoyed that movie. Really, really enjoyed it. The other one I would recommend, if you want science fiction, is with our Mandalorian friend, Pedro Pascal, who is in a film called Prospect, which again is kind of dark and moody, but wow, what a beautiful little independent sci-fi film. Prospect, really like 2 thumbs up and a couple of toes on that one. Pedro Pascal is just so freaking cool. That guy's just so cool. When I grow up, I want to be him, even though he's probably half my age. I Care a Lot, good one. Yeah, that's it. I Care a Lot. That's it. It was a crazy movie. I know. The ending was like, I was like, what? It's so weird to be like sort of rooting for these horrible people. I have the same thing with Succession. I'm watching Succession and I'm like, why do I want these horrible people to get away with the terrible things they've done? Anyways, yeah. You liked the ending. It was satisfying. So it's funny. So my friends hated it. When younger, I gave up a tech class assignment because there was no other girls in it and I felt too weird to continue. See, Manon, that's exactly the problem, right? That is exactly the problem. And I think you'll find that a lot of women and also apparently in studies, black people, black students aren't being pushed into the sciences because that's just not their thing. You know what I mean? So there's a weird kind of not weird. There's a horrible sort of bias and stereotype along with this stuff. That is, I mean, again, I believe it's changing in certain parts of the world, and in certain areas of those parts of the world. But the reality is there are just these weird kind of like biases and stereotypes. I mean, it's nice. I think in the same way that there were like there were nurses. Of course you can go into medicine. You could be a nurse because you're a woman. You wouldn't be a doctor. You know what I mean? Like these things are changing. I'm ancient, so keep in mind, like I'm 50 something years old. I don't even know where I'm at right now. But that's my birthday soon. That's my birthday on the 18th. There you go. So I'll be older on the 18th. So I'm old. I'm jaded. But I grew up where that joke where they say like there's a man and his son are in a terrible car accident. They get rushed to the hospital, and the surgeon comes in to go to work on the young lad, and she says, I ruined it. I ruined the joke right there. And the doctor says, I can't operate on him. He's my son. And you'd be like, what? How's that possible? Maybe so-and-so. And then, of course, it's just because no one was thinking that that the surgeon could be a woman, right? I ruined the joke. But I'm of that era that used to fall for that, all the time. Obviously not more than once. Once it had happened once, it sort of stuck with me. But I remember that is one of those things that stuck with me. When I heard that for the first time, I remember first thinking like, I won't fall for that joke again. And then later going like, wait a second, why do I think that? That's so weird. So it's just that kind of stuff. There's there are some sort of biases and stereotypes that are just sort of built into the way that we've lived our lives so far. As for me, I've lived my life, that have sort of allowed me to not see things that I should have seen, and to not experience things because they just don't happen to people of my color, right? So that's, this is stuff I'm sort of, I mean, I don't mean to be obsessive about it, and I don't want to bore people with it, but at the same time, I think it's, Baz says like, it's uncomfortable, I don't like talking about this stuff, and I was like, yeah, but I think that's the point, right? The point is that we don't have to talk about it. If it's an uncomfortable conversation, it's not one that we have to have unless we force ourselves to. Whereas someone who is of color is basically having to have those conversations every freaking day, whether it's in actual out loud or in their heads or whatever, whatever their experience is that they're having. And I think the fact that we don't have to is not an excuse, if that makes sense. Like, I think it's important to try. I think, again, personally, think that if we can get this sort of word out there. And one of the things, again, this book, I keep recommending this book, So You Want to Talk About Race, really uncomfortable read for me. Like, I felt like I was being, like targeted by it in a way. It made me angry. I felt defensive. I felt sort of offended. But at the same time, I learned a lot. Begrudgingly, but I learned a lot from it. So I would definitely recommend that to someone if they're willing to sit down. And I mean, there were literally sections where the first sentence I'd be like, oh, no freaking way, I'm out of here. And that was it, I mean, but I would have to come back and go, okay, fine, let's go. I'll plow through. And invariably she would address that, which I thought was really, really interesting. So, I think people should just follow whatever their passions are, regardless of gender. Well, that's, I mean, exactly, sardonic. I mean, that's the hope, right? The hope is that you do. But I think the problem is that if you're not raised, and I'm not talking about even just a parenting thing, I just think it's on a societal level. If you're not seeing people doing the things you want to do, if you don't know that they exist, or that if your role models, I'm trying to think of a good example. So if all of your science role models are Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson, I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson is actually probably a bad example because he's a black scientist, which a black astronomer, which again, can anyone name another one? I mean, like, that's, I'm not saying there aren't, but it's just the fact that there are so few as an example. It just is kind of shocking. But still, male, another guy in the process. If all of your scientific heroes are male, you don't then go like, oh, I'm going to be like, there's a subtle, you go like, oh, I guess in your brain you're going like, well, I want to be like them. No, you want to be like, someone who looks like you, who sounds like you, who, so then you end up in fashion or something. I mean, like, this is the thing is, I feel like the better represented people are in all the fields, the more likelihood there is that people are truly going to be able to follow their passions, because their passion will be sort of inspired by any number of people who look and sound and come from the same background and raising that they are as well. That's only going to help that, right? If you see, if the computer gaming is mainly male and white, then, and you don't see a lot of like black game programmers or female game programmers, again, it's the same thing, right? You got the same issue, where it's easier to be inspired if you see someone who looks like you, sounds like you, and comes from the same background. So anyways, I worship women, strongly feel that are more intelligent, and I am gutted that there are barely any in computing. We are losing out as a species. Absolutely, Johnny. I mean, I'm not sure if I worship women, but I mean, I worship Jane perhaps, but I would say that that I look forward to doing battle with them. But yeah, I think it's, again, if the same people do the same education and try to solve the same problem, they're all going to come up with the same answers. Whereas if you have a bunch of different people with a whole different approach to how they get into and how they do whatever the subject matter is, they're going to have a different perspective on a problem, and they're going to have different answers. And that's, to me, in a nutshell, my pitch for us trying to get as many different types of people and backgrounds into every single industry. There's a wonderful analogy made about where you keep your ketchup, right? So that if you keep your ketchup in the fridge, then when you run out of ketchup, you look for other things in the, in the fridge that could stand in for it. So you go for mayo, let's say. If you keep your ketchup on a shelf in the kitchen, when you run out of ketchup, you go, well, what about hot sauce, or what about soy sauce, or there's a different base. So your solution to the problem is very much about where your frame of reference on those things. So if everyone's getting their ketchup from the fridge, it's a different world, right? It's sorry, if everyone's getting the ketchup from the fridge, you get the same burger, right? But when you get people keeping it in different places, you get a nice selection of different things. So again, here comes David with his crazy Hollywood ideas about treating women and people of color as human beings. I know, Jim, I am so, oh my God. I ate the wrong pill this morning. Yeah, stereotyping, bias. I mean, look, I think the thing that I've discovered that really was absolutely eye-opening to me, and this is not like a guilt thing. Like, this is not a, I know, people in the past have said, like, you can't, it's ridiculous. You can't be, mad at yourself for things you didn't know. I think you can to some extent, and that I feel like if you were, the fact that I'm now more aware of this stuff makes me look further afield for answers, which helps me as well. And I feel like, I feel like everyone assumes that racism is like an active thing. The racism is a conscious, active choice that you are not only deep down you are racist, you are racist in what you do, in everything you like. It's almost like a and to me it's almost like a cartoon, like you're either like Heiling Hitler or wearing a white robe or something. That is racism. And I think what I've discovered is that racism is so much subtler than that, and that much as I would love to say I'm not racist, I am absolutely racist. I'm absolutely sexist. I'm absolutely ableist. I'm absolutely homophobic, or I because I grew up in a society that has conditioned me not to think about these other perspectives when it comes to a lot of different things. I mean, does that make me a bad person? No, I don't think it does. I think it makes me a normal person. Am I embarrassed by it? Very much so. Very, very much so. I'm I find myself, second guessing what I say, and probably overcompensating or undercompensating or whatever. I don't know. I mean, whatever the case is, I know I'm going to make mistakes because of that. But I think understanding that there is something there, that instead of getting defensive about it, you go like, oh, wow, well, what if that is the case? And when I started doing that, I was like, yeah, that's totally the case. I fall for that's my son. I can't operate on them. And I'm like, who's that? There's a perfect example of sexism. I talk with Gimpy G about stuff, and I definitely fall into just sort of forgetting aspects of it. Like, it's not as simple as just picking up it's not just as simple as, you can't just sort of say like, hey, I'm Skyping you, go, like, it's like, there's certain assumptions you make as an able-bodied person because it's not a part of your day-to-day life, you don't consider these things. So, I'm a straight guy. So definitely I feel like I'm outside of the LGBTQ plus, community. Like I feel like I feel that I get embarrassed by it. I feel like I know there are certain responses that I have to people about it that I'm sure aren't the right responses. That's not to say I'm not going to try. And it's not to say that I automatically make any assumptions on these things. I mean, one of the wonderful things about working in the film industry is that you get to meet people of every race, color, creed, sexual orientation, everything. I have met. I don't even know if there's a. I'm not sure if there's a type of person I haven't met on the film industry and that's amazing. I mean, like that I think has really, really helped for me. But at the same time, I have to understand that because my frame of reference is very, sort of Anglo-Saxon British upbringing. Wow, what's this?
Smoothie.
Ooh, thank you very much. Smoothie. Thanks, baby. How you doing? I'm talking way too much. Yep, that's it. All right, 70 minutes. Holy moly, I'm really going. Okay. Do I have good tips at getting better at Magic the Gathering? Elsa, Magic the Gathering Arena, there is a robot. You can play against the robot. Do some of your decks and just play them against the robot, and it's great. Robot. I sound like 1,000 years old. There is a non-player character, and that way it just takes the pressure off, and you can just try out the decks. Because the big thing about the decks is once you look at the cards and you get a sense of what the cards do, you start putting the cards together, and it's get better. You get better at playing Magic by playing Magic. Honestly, there's some fun stuff. If you want to watch game nights, that's called Command Zone on YouTube. It's called Game Nights. You'll be so confused, but they are so much fun to watch, and you'll just start picking things up as you watch more of those as well. So we watch a lot of Game Nights, Command Zone. There is Tolarian Community College, the professor. You can look at him. He's great too. Again, some of it gets pretty heady pretty fast. It gets pretty nerdy pretty fast. But honestly, the best way to do it, and I mean, you're talking to someone who sucks at it, is just to play it. I really like playing the card game. I find the online game not as engaging, I've got to say. I love the feel of the cards. Elsa, do you have is there somebody you could play with? Do you have a brother or a sister or a parent or a friend that you could go in on a pack of cards or something? I mean, because that's really fun. I know I've had a few rough days. I needed some Hewlett chats to make me feel better. Oh, Fox Girl, what's going on? Is Fox Girl having a hard time? Horrors of World War I and II were mainly done by different groups of white people against each other. Yeah, Cambodian genocide was committed by other Cambodians. Rwanda was Hutus versus Tutsis. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's not no one is. And one of the great things that comes up in that, so you want to talk about race book, is they're saying anyone can be racist. Racism isn't just white people, but that doesn't negate the fact that the white population traditionally has been, the bastion of racism and stereotypes and such. What's depressing? What's going on? Yeah, I mean, none of this is easy, man. We're still trying to figure all this stuff out. Skyfall Gaming, is there a specific time that you like to stream, or just when you feel like it's mainly when I feel like it's Skyfall, or when I'm free, honestly? I used to look at people as cogs and fire them if they didn't meet a certain level. Now I appreciate people who want to learn and recognize people's strengths. So that's interesting. I mean, this is... oh, Fox Girl, I'm so sorry. Oh God, Fox Girl's dog died. I'm so sorry, Fox Girl. That sucks. That just sucks. There's no way around it. It just sucks. I remember when Mars went, and it was just horrible. I'm so sorry, Fox Girl. Yeah, there's just no way around it. There's no way around it. Dogs, they're just absolutely lovely, lovely creatures. People always ask me if I prefer dogs or cats. Dogs. I love my dog. Even though this new one is mad and crazy, I love the dog. Fox Girl, I'm so sorry. That's just miserable. That's just miserable. There's just no way around it. But that's the next thing is, yeah, I mean, Alexa raises a really good point. Is it Alexa who said that? Yeah, I mean, the way I feel about dog ownership is that our job is to make those tough decisions for the dog, right? I mean, our job is to look after them and to provide for them and to make sure that they're healthy and happy. And then at some point, when they're no longer able to do that, you either have to choose for them that it's time for them to, to what is it, shed this mortal coil or whatever the term is. And it's a really hard decision. And as my granny always said, it's always harder for the people left behind, right? She used to say it about us doing our holiday trips, and we would go and we'd to spend time with them, and then when we leave, everyone would get upset. And she always would say, like, it's so much harder for the people left behind. And then I remember when she died. I remember that came right back to me, and I was like, oh my God, like it's so true. Like, Granny's gone. Granny's happy. Granny's had a good life. But we're the ones who've got to figure out what to do without her. And I think the same thing applies to not to equate my granny to a dog, but the reality is, the dog's with you almost every hour of every day. I mean, there's a connection there that you just can't shake. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think Foxgirl, you just gotta, I don't even know. You gotta grieve. I think that's it. You just gotta have a shitty week or two, and then slowly it gets over it, and slowly you just get the odd pang now and again. But it's yeah, and then you go save another one. That's what we did. He said it took me 2 years to get convinced into doing it, but yeah, I got talked into another one. So and again, you're there, and we dragged that silly jumping coyote kangaroo beast out of a shelter. They could not get rid of this damn dog. It's the same thing we had with Mars. Mars they could not get rid of because he was too sick and he was never going to make it. And we had him for 14 years. And now this one, the same thing. They're like, oh, she's going to be, she's difficult, and she's going to, but with a bit of work. And of course we get her home, and I'm like, I don't know if I can do this. I am bleeding. She's like taking chunks out of my hand. I mean, out of joy, but just, she was not trained. She was taken from her mother too soon. She had not had the yelps. So yeah, I'm sorry, Foxgirl. Yeah, there's just no way around it, I'm afraid. You just got to let yourself grieve. They're worth it. They're worth a few bad days, I would say. All right, I must go. I've talked forever. I'm so sorry. I've just talked your ears off. Be safe. Oh, wow. Wes FX, thank you very much. Best fix for racism or anything is good food shared. At least there in Cajun country, everyone gathers around a crawfish boil and forget your differences. That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, look, but that's the familiarity thing, right? Too. It's the idea of like, if your lives intersect, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, these people are the same people as us. I mean, it's that whole silly kind of realization that I think we are, we're so fight or flight in our response to people and things, So, all right. Speaking of fight or flights, I gotta fly. So be safe, be kind, be brilliant, and until we meet again, I will say cheerio and huzzah. See y'all.